the 2020 election, he still claims that he won the election. What do you make of that?
I mean, I obviously disagree with him. I don't think that he won the 2020 election. Also, this is part and parcel. I wish it weren't. But it is part and parcel of a reactionary divide that has plagued our politics since before Donald Trump, frankly. I mean, when Donald Trump won the election in 2016, we then spent 3.5 years of people claiming that Donald Trump was a Russian plant and had been.
It's not the same thing. Oh God, Sam Harris, please call him out on this. Sam, please, Sam, please call him out on this. Please don't let him do these both sides.
Bootstrapped into office by the Russians manipulating Facebook. This sort of election denialism is not.
But the thing is, that did happen though, right? Now, did Trump win solely because of Russian interference or whatever? Maybe not, but Russians were active on Facebook. We know that. Are you denying that fact? Are you saying that didn't happen?
It is ugly. It is bad on both sides. It is. I won't even say that what Democrats
on both sides.
Thank you.
That's not true. If Donald Trump wins this election, I promise you.
Hillary, I promise you what? That we're going to have a fucking riot at the Capitol building that's being cheerled by the leadership of the Democratic Party?
We'll see election denialism on the left. That is incredibly similar to what you've seen from Donald Trump.
I wanted to ask you that. And this is a question for you. I'm not going to filibuster, Ben. I just want to ask you. If on election day we have a clear result, right? So there's a landslide in the swing states and someone really wins, right? If I told you that the losing candidate denied the results of the election and simply would not accept a loss and even appealed to their most fanatical supporters to come into the streets and just obviously provoked violence on the part of the mob, right? And said, and when asked, what about the Constitution? This candidate said, to hell with the Constitution. We don't have a country anymore. Which candidate am I conceivably talking about?
Well, I mean, I think that, given Trump's rhetoric in 2020, obviously what you're talking about is Donald Trump. I don't think that's how it would be phrased by Kamala Harris. I think that the way that it would be phrased by Kamala Harris is more subtly.
Kamala Harris, if she loses in a landslide, you think there's a chance that she will not accept the results of the election?
Forget about a landslide.
She'll call people into the streets?
How about a close election?
No, do the landslide one too. The landslide one is important first because it shows that, even in a landslide, Donald Trump might still say it, right?
How about a close election? Forget about a landslide because a landslide is.
But the landslide just makes it perfectly clear. I just want.
Thank you. Yes, correct.
Why the necessity for that sort of clarity in elections?
It's necessary to show how insane your side is. Even in a landslide, they would still deny it, Ben. That's the point. What is he not? Did he not graduate from Harvard? Is it a fake diploma? What do they teach there? That's obviously the point of why he's asking in the most extreme, obvious example where it would be so wrong, you would still act wrong and you would support it.
50-50. Why not actually pick a plausible scenario? The most plausible scenario is that she loses in a very tight election. And then she says there's been voter suppression. And then she suggests.
It's all too plausible. Ben, it's all too plausible because currently the chance that there will be a landslide in the swing states is about 40%, even though we're at 50-50 between the two candidates. According to Nate Silver, there's a 40% chance that one of them runs the table in the swing states, right? So it's
sure. That
doesn't matter, by the way, Sam. It doesn't matter if when they say win in a landslide, I'm sorry, hold on, wait. Just so you guys understand this. The landslide win is not the Electoral College. The landslide win needs to be the popular vote in the swing states. Because if Kamala Harris wins in a landslide in the Electoral College, but the difference in every single state is 10 to 20,000 votes, that would be enough for all of the Trumples to go crazy. Okay? The landslide win can't be the electoral vote number. It has to be the vote margins in the swing states that Kamala would win in, right? That's what actually matters.
That would be an Electoral College landslide. We're not talking about a popular vote landslide in any case.
Right.
That's not true. We are. They're not getting this. Now, I haven't heard a lot of people comment on this, but I just realized when people are talking about a landslide win, they're thinking just in the Electoral College, but that's not how the riggers, like Donald Trump and his sycophants are looking at it. They're thinking of how close the actual elections are in those swing states.
How about a clear result, right? Where no allegations of fraud are plausible.
Okay, so the most obvious sort of rhetoric that would be used along those lines would be Trump's. And then the rhetoric that would be used on the other side of Trump wins would be that Trump has corrupted the system. The system has been so corrupted that people weren't able to vote properly in places like Georgia, which has been the claim that there was Jim Crow 2.0 in Georgia for years. There would be claims that Donald Trump was paid off by billionaires.
Hold on. Not all of these are the same, though. You can complain about things like gerrymandering, or complain about things like restrictive laws that make it harder to vote, because those are real things. Now, you can argue whether they have an impact or not, but that is of a different kind. That is substantively different than people saying that there is a top-down collusive effort by the entire Democratic establishment functioning throughout the federal government, all of its agencies, and the state governments and all their agencies, or at least the ones in the swing states, to concoct false election results. These are completely different claims.
There was foreign interference in the election. There would be all of these claims, and they would float around.
Oh my God.
This is my original claim, Sam, is that Donald Trump is very obvious in his excesses. Democrats and the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris are much more subtle in their excesses, but those excesses are no less dangerous for being more subtle. In fact, in some ways, I think they are more dangerous for being more subtle.
Ben, you can't use a phrase like no less dangerous. Hillary Clinton conceded in 24 hours. That is less dangerous than this continuous provocation.
Sam, I just disagree with you. I think
you're wrong, though. You can disagree. That's fine, but you're just wrong. You're wrong. You can't breathe underwater. If you disagree with that, you're wrong. You can't fly. If you disagree with that, you're wrong. You're just wrong.
The attempt by members of the media, by Hillary Clinton, who herself said that Donald Trump was illegitimately elected based on Russian interference in the 2016 election, was highly damaging.
How long did she say that for? How long did she say that for? Does she
solid
still say
public-
that?
I mean, she will, yes, actually, she will still claim openly that there was manipulation that took place during that is true, that there was manipulation during the 2016 election.
She says the sane thing to say is that there is continuous foreign intervention.
Sam should ask him point blank, hold on, do you think that Russia does try to interfere in our politics? Do you think that that ever happens? Or are you denying all of that? Also, just as a heads up, when Ben Shapiro knew that Trump was out of office, so Ben Shapiro didn't have to be a slave to Donald Trump. And when Ben Shapiro thought that he could give his own takes on what was happening politically without having to worry about the backlash from MAGA supporters, this is what Ben Shapiro's take was on January 7th, 24 hours after January 6th.
Perspective of the rioters, if you're a criminal, and you should go to jail. You should go to jail. And this was an attempted act of insurrection. I mean, technically speaking, that's what it was, considering that the reason that this happened is because Congress was simply there doing their constitutional duty and tabulating the state-certified electoral count. And that's all they were doing. They do not have the power. Congress does not have the power, as I've been saying all week long. Congress does not, and never did, have the power to simply overturn state electoral college certified results. That is not a legal thing for them to do. Vice President.
That's not a legal thing for them to do. Notice how he doesn't mince words here of that's a specious legal argument, because he's correct. That's not what the ECA was designed for. The debating over the votes, the electoral votes in the Congress has to do with whether or not the votes were improperly submitted or certified or something like that, right? That came from the states. The electors voting, right? And the certificate of ascertainment. It wasn't there to debate voter fraud.
And Pence did not have that power. Congress did not have that power. It was not going to happen anyway, even if you thought they had that power, because Democrats control the House of Representatives. So all of that was tomfoolery. It was nonsense. And
technically, Democrats didn't control the House of Representatives, but that's a different thing. But that's okay. He doesn't need to know that.
Folks who believe.
Why did he change his mind? Because Donald Trump and Hassan Piker and all these people operate the same way. If you're not with them, they will annihilate your career. That's the issue. If you don't stand with them, then they will call you out in the media and they will destroy you. This is a pattern of behavior that Donald Trump engages in time and time and time and time and time again. That's why in the Dominion v. Fox News lawsuit, that's why the execs behind the scenes were talking about how brutal it was that Donald Trump was calling them out. They were losing audience to OAN. They were losing audience to Newsmax. Donald Trump will destroy you if you don't stand with them. That's why you've got people like Matt Walsh, who will write these huge articles about how, let me make this perfectly clear, I will never vote for Donald Trump. But once Donald Trump wins and he starts targeting people that disagree with him, now you have to fall in line. This is why Glenn Beck initially was opposed to Trump, and now he's a massive Trump suck. This is why, this is just like the pattern. This is just what happens. This is everybody. You have to do this.
You thought they had that power because Democrats control the House of Representatives. So all of that was tomfoolery. It was nonsense. And folks who believed that it wasn't nonsense and decided that they were going to commit an evil act. It is an evil act to invade the seat of government and do violence to people. It turns out we now have over a dozen police officers who are injured. There are 4 people who are dead. 1 person was shot. 3 people died in medical emergencies yesterday. That's as bad an event as I've ever seen in American public life. Frankly, I think that in many ways, it's the worst thing to happen to the United States of America since 9/11. It was cataclysmically awful. Cataclysmically awful. Obviously, a very different sort of thing, considering that 9/11 was a foreign terror attack ending with mass carnage and mass death. But the grave.
Look at how wise he is when talking about this. And this is one of the reasons why January 6th is worse than 9/11. And people hear that like, oh, look how many people died. 9/11 was an attack from the outside. January 6th was spurred from within, from a president, from a sitting president. It's so much war. It's so much more of 9/11 was not an attack on our democracy. It was an attack on our infrastructure. It was an attack from a foreign enemy. It was an attack on our stability as like a world leader, but it wasn't an internal corruption of or threat to our internal democratic processes like January 6th. It was a different thing in kind. Still bad, horrible, in a lot of ways, obviously worse than January 6th when it comes to property damage and lives lost. But in a way, January 6th represented a special type of attack on American democracy. It was spurred on by a sitting U.S. president.
Damage done to the sense of democracy, to the propriety of a republic, and to the functional workings of our government yesterday. It was pretty awful. It was pretty awful. Now, the American system is robust and bounced back within hours, thank God. But that does not diminish the importance of what happened yesterday, which, again, was bad on every single level. So let's start from the very beginning, because that's a very good place to start, as Julie Andrews might say. So yesterday, there was a lot of lead up. There's a lot of lead up to yesterday. Remember, the big news story in the morning was that the Republicans had lost the Senate. And
what do you mean by the House wasn't controlled by the Dems on January 6th? In the ECA, or this might be in the 12th Amendment, I think it was spelled out in the ECA, the way that the president would be chosen by the House if the Senate doesn't choose or can't figure it out is that the House delegation would be the one to choose the president. House delegation just means the number of majority party states not the number of U.S. representatives. So, for instance, let's say that there are more, Republican, or let's say there are more Democrats than Republicans in the House of Representatives, but let's say that there are more states represented in the House of Representatives that are majority Republican and have more Republican representatives. Even with a minority membership of representatives, the Republicans would still have a majority ownership of the House delegation. That's the issue. So that's why if you look at the coup memo from Eastman, that's why Eastman was saying that if it does get thrown back to the House, we can still win because the House delegation is still controlled by the Republicans, even if they had a minority of people. It might not be in this one. It might be in the 6th page. So it was this part of the wargaming, right? Alternatively, if Mike Pence were to determine that because multiple electors were appointed from the 7 states but not counted because of ongoing election disputes, all that is a lie, by the way, it's because they had fake elector slates, right? Neither candidate has the necessary 270 elector votes, throwing the election to the House. If the Republicans in the state delegations, not just the number of representatives, but the delegations stand firm, the vote there is 26 states for Trump, 23 for Biden, and 1 split vote, Trump would win. The House delegation is not the total number of representatives. It's just the overall representation of the states. Is there a good reason to work with the House delegation instead of the representatives, or does the system need updating? I think this is something that's spelled out. I believe it's in the Constitution itself. I'm trying to remember if this is in the Constitution or if it's just the 12th Amendment. I'd have to go and check. But it's somewhere. It's constitutional. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's in the ECA. I think it's in the. It's either in one of the amendments. It's either in the 12th Amendment or it's in the in the 12th Amendment or the Constitution itself. Do you think this should be changed? I understand the reason behind it, so should I turn it utter chaos if there's a clear winner? No, I don't think it should. It's just dumb. This should never even be relevant to anything. This is only happening. The only reason we're even considering this is because Donald Trump was trying to coup the government.
Democrats now had unified control of government. And there had been lead up for weeks to the
Okay.
interference in our elections,
But
right?
that's always been
that's
the
a
case.
double standard, Sam. Now you're proposing a double standard.
No, but very
when
few
Hillary says
people-
it,
Remember, so we saw on January 7th, Ben Shapiro says that this is the worst event to happen in the United States possibly since 9/11. But now he's saying it's no big deal and Hillary Clinton did it as well. Notice the change?
it's totally subtle and fine. And when Trump says it in the most obvious, foolish way, then it's totally different.
Ben,
Sam, go ahead.
You're just missing the relevant details here. Almost everyone thinks that there is continuous foreign interference in our elections. Very few people at this point think that it has been decisive and that it was decisive in 2016. I mean, the problem in 2016, it was a much bigger problem. That the internal division was real, and whatever Russia tried to do on Facebook was amplifying very real divisions.
Thank you for bringing this up, Sam. This is the one, I think I actually did I get Tom to admit this, or was it somebody else I was talking to on stream? Because I'll always say, what is the comparison to Fox News and Dominion? And that Constantine, the traitorous Russian spy, probably gets paid by Putin himself in rubles, okay, in his foreign bank account that does media in the United States to sow dissent and try to destroy my country, okay? He used the same argument against me on Twitter, where he's like, what about Russiagate? But if you ever get one of these people, okay, outside of the massive circle jerk bukkake circles, okay, where people are using homeopathy to spread as many loads of Trump from mouth to mouth as possible, when you get these people alone and you ask them legitimately, hey, hold on, do you think that the people in the media actually believe that Russiagate was real, or do you think they were all making it up? Most of them will tell you, yeah, they probably thought it was real, right? It's not that they were intentionally making up a lie. And you could argue that that gross irresponsibility or that they didn't fact check enough or whatever. You can make all those arguments that they should have done a better job, but it wasn't an intentional lie, right? You can say they shouldn't have thought it was dumb to think it, but they did think it, right? And if they don't agree with that, well, then you can just push them on one more. Be careful. Make sure that you're protecting yourself when you do this, okay? Because evidence is kryptonite to a MAGA kid, okay? You ask them for evidence. You say, okay, hold on. Is there any evidence that they knew that they were telling a lie? Because there's none of that. There's nothing there, right? And then you have to get them to admit that, okay, fine, well, at least I believe in something without evidence. Although for MAGA, that's normal, so maybe they won't give a fuck admitting that, but...
that exist in our society.
I appreciate that, Destiny.
All right, bye.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.